So let's do a walkthrough video of a question about comparative and absolute advantage. Comparative and absolute advantage sometimes is intimidating for students, and I'm here to tell you that it's really not. And I think that people tend to overlook it. And there's a couple little tricks, and I feel like this FRQ, we can learn a lot about the style of questions or things to expect. So this question was from the 2015 exam. It's also located in the FRQ Frenzy packet, and you also would be expected to do something like this FRQ just based on your experience from Unit 1 alone. So the first thing here is that it says country X and country Y are trading partners and both produce furnaces and solar panels. The countries can produce the following amounts in using equal amounts of resources. So this would be a production possibilities curve that's flat because you're using an equal amount of resources for the goods. Okay, so country X makes 6 furnaces or 8 solar panels. Country Y makes 6 furnaces or 12 solar panels. So the cool thing about this is that we don't really have to do a lot with the numbers. I typically tell students to put the two countries on what I like to call a level playing field, because oftentimes we don't have two of the goods in terms of the same quantity. So for this question, we're actually starting out with a favor done to us by the College Board, putting both of these in terms of 6. So I don't really need to simplify them. If you wanted, you could put these in terms of 1, but then 8's going to come out to be a number that's not a whole number. So I would encourage you just to keep it the way that it is. So I like to break down the data before I even start thinking about what the question is asking. So typically you need to know who has the absolute advantage in furnaces, who has an absolute advantage in solar panels, because those are the two goods. And then I also want to know who's got the comparative advantage in those furnaces and who's got the comparative advantage in the solar panels. And believe it or not, I think it was 2017, we had an FRQ in which neither country had a comparative advantage. So I used to say to students, you'll always have a country with at least a comparative advantage in one of the goods. But if the ratio is the same for both of them, it is plausible. It's not the case in this question, though. All right. So when I look at the furnaces, neither country has an absolute advantage in making furnaces because they both make the same amount. And if absolute advantage is about who does that thing more or who makes more of it and does it better. So this is an output question, meaning that I'm looking for the bigger number because I'm talking about total output. So in this case, country Y makes many more solar panels than country X does. And actually, I shouldn't have crossed this out. I got too excited because I was thinking about how neither country did. So I just saw two things. So no one has an absolute advantage in furnaces, but somebody does have an absolute advantage in the solar panels, and that's country Y. So I'm just going to put a little AA next to them. Usually they put this data in a table and it's nice and organized, but I mean, it's still organized, but it's not in a big table. Okay. So that means that by default, country X, I'm sorry, no, there's no default there with the absolute advantage. Okay, moving on to the comparative advantage. Who should do what? So here's the conversation you have with yourself. You have this on a level playing field. So for every 6 furnaces that country X would make, the world would lose 8 solar panels. What a tragic thing. If country Y makes 6 furnaces, the world would lose 12 solar panels. That's so many more solar panels. We don't want that to happen. So therefore, the country that has the comparative advantage in solar panels is country Y, because the opportunity cost would be so much greater. It would be 4 more solar panels if they gave that production up. Therefore, the country who has the comparative advantage in furnaces is country X. So now I'm going to get into the question. And like I said, I want you to look at the data before you even get into what they're asking you, because a lot of times you can just figure it out and anticipate the questions. Okay, so part A. Who has an absolute advantage in producing solar panels? Well, boom, we already figured that out, that was country Y. We are not required to put an explanation here, but on the 2020 exam, we are doing all textual responses, and I would wager that you're going to have to explain everything. So therefore, I would say something like, because country Y produces or has a larger total output than country X, and they have equal amounts of resources. Part B, calculate. So we need to have a numerical answer here. We need to show all of our math, the opportunity cost of a furnace in country Y. So in country Y, they make 6 furnaces or 12 solar panels. So if they get rid of, if they want to know what the opportunity cost is, so for every solar panel you make, how many furnaces would you lose? Or for every furnaces you make, how many solar panels would you lose? So all you do to do that, they're asking us in terms of furnaces. So I want to make 6 furnaces turn into 1. So that means that I also need to lose, or divide rather. I'm having a hard time finding my words here. I also need to divide that one by 6 too. So really, the opportunity cost of 1 furnace is 2 solar panels, and that's pretty easy math. You just have to know what to do. Had it been the other way around, let's just say over here in our hypothetical universe, let's say they said something like, what is the opportunity cost of 1 solar panel? You would divide these both by 12, and the answer would be a half of a furnace. Now, I don't think they're cutting the furnaces in half, but basically it comes down to the resources that would go into making half of the product. Okay, C. Which country has a comparative advantage in furnaces? We already figured that out. It's country X. And when you're having to explain this, it's always in terms of opportunity costs. So I would say something like country X, due to the fact that they have a lower opportunity cost. Don't abbreviate on your exam. We only lose 8 solar panels if they make the furnaces. We lose 12 if country Y makes them, and that's no good. Part D here. Let's say somebody came down with a crystal ball, fairy godmother, a spirit, whatever you want to say, and says, I want the terms of trade to be 2 furnaces for 1 solar panel. And the question is, should country X take that trade and import the solar panels from country Y? Or should they just continue to make them on their own? Where is the deal better? So this type of thing, this terms of trade thing, tends to make students a little nervous. And I'm here to tell you it's really not that difficult to do as long as you know how to do it. So they're talking about 2 furnaces to 1 solar panel. What I know right now is that country X is making 6 furnaces domestically and 8 solar panels. So the question is the 2-to-1 deal better for them or not? So first of all, if you think about what would you do to make these on a level playing field so you could even compare what's better? So I say there's 2 ways you could do it. One way is you could multiply up, or you could divide down. Multiplying up is going to be much neater, so let me show you that first. I'm going to multiply this by 3 to make this 6, because I want these to be equal. And because I multiplied that by 3, I need to multiply the other one by 3. Okay, so now here's the conversation. Country X, you can make 6 solar panels and import 3. Sorry, you can make 6 furnaces and import 3 solar panels from country Y. Do you want to do it? Country X says, well, at home we already make 6 furnaces, so we would be putting in the same amount of work. But we have 8 solar panels, and this trade would actually reduce our total amount of goods. So this trade is not advantageous for country X. They should continue to produce their goods domestically. The other method that you could do is you could divide. And as I told you, that's a little bit messier. And I feel like for some students, they're going to see me do these numbers and they're going to say, oh, I like multiplying up. So all I did was I looked at 2 and 6 and I just in my head, thank you, fourth grade Mrs. Jensen timetables. 2 times 3 is 6. So I just multiply it up to make them level. Let's say we go back to the original and you say, well, I need to figure out what we're making domestically in terms of 2. So one way you could do this is you could divide this by 3, right? To make this 2 furnaces. And now I'm on a level playing field, 2 and 2. But then I have to divide the 8 by the 3, and that's a little messy because it's 2 and 2/3. And some people don't like fractions like that. But still, let's walk it through it again. The trade says you make 2 furnaces, you get a solar panel. But domestically, country X is saying, yeah, but we make 2 furnaces and 2 and 2/3 solar panels on our own. So we're good. Both ways show you that making the solar panels and furnaces domestically is a much better deal than importing them from country Y. So this is the rubric from the College Board. This is on the FRQ Frenzy rubrics document, which is on your 2020 review document. So go ahead and pause the video so you can see the official answers. But I hope the video helped you understand a little bit more how we do comparative and absolute advantage.